I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 4, 2018 Board of Supervisors meeting. Tonight's story is called Value. A popular speaker started off a seminar by holding up a $20 bill. A crowd of 200 had gathered to hear him speak. He asked who would like this $20 bill. 200 hands went up. He said, "I'm going to give this to one of you, but first let me do this." He crumbled the bill up. He then asked, "Who still wants it?" All 200 hands were still raised. "Well," he replied, "what if I do this?" Then he dropped the bill on the ground and stomped on it with his shoes. He picked it up and showed it to the crowd. The bill was all crumbled and dirty. "Now who still wants it?" All the hands still went up. My friends, I have just showed you a very important lesson. No matter what I did to the money, you still wanted it because it did not decrease in value. It was still worth $20. Many times in our lives, life crumbles us and grinds us into the dirt. We make bad decisions or deal with poor circumstances. We feel worthless. But no matter what has happened or what will happen, you will never lose your value. You are special. Don't forget that. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There were no executive sessions since the last meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I need to correct that. We did have an executive session after the last meeting.
Oh, that's right.
To discuss personnel issues.
I apologize. Yes, we did have a meeting. I'm a little off this evening. I'm a little hazy because I have one hearing aid that's working and one that's not. So it's like, you know.
Speak on this side.
I'm going like this. Approval of the bill list. Has everyone had a chance to look at the bill list? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the bill list from May 13 through May 31 in the amount of $838,037.62.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the bill list from May 13th through May 31st in the amount of $838,037.62. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. I assume everyone has had a chance to go over the minutes. Are there any questions or comments or changes? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes of the board's May 21st regular meeting.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the meeting minutes of the board's May 21st regular meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next up, public comment. Do we have any questions or comments from the peanut gallery? No questions, no comments? Okay. Okay, moving on, there will be no public hearing this evening. Old business. Consider adoption of Resolution 2018-27 to approve a preliminary subdivision and land development plan for Spares Lane.
Good evening. My name is Mike Clement. I'm an attorney from Whistler Pearlstein. I'm here with our engineer, Mr. Hoagland, Jeremy Hoagland, who's to my right, and to the principal who is making the application, Mark Marino, who's further to my right. We appreciate the time to present this plan. If you don't mind, I'll put the plan over there. That way, thank you. We won't have my back entirely to people. I appreciate your patience with me. If my back is to you, it's not because I am trying to disrespect you. The plan that we're looking at is for a 5-lot subdivision. It's adjacent or next to Spares Lane. This plan has been run through various consultants and has been discussed with those consultants. We believe that it meets the requirements of the township, but there are waivers that are being requested. I promise I'll keep my voice up. The easiest way to do this, I think, is to refer to the various letters from the township consultants, and if you have questions, then we will respond to those questions with regard to consultants' letters. The first letter that I would like to look at with you is the May 25, 2018 correspondence from Bill Dingman for Gilmore and Associates. With respect to that letter, there are a number of matters and I'll go from the last page, permits and approvals, 1 through 4, we will comply. Above that, in the last page, there are items that come over from the page before, or page 2, general comments, and they are 1 through 9, we will comply. There are subdivision and land development waivers, which are the subject of a letter that we have submitted. And I don't know if you, Brian, if you have them.
Excuse me a second, I don't know that we have those letters.
I don't have a letter.
The resolution includes the waiver requests pasted in, but I don't have the letter. We just have the actual waiver requests.
Do you have extra copies of the letter? You're referring to a letter that I can't, I don't know what sections or codes. No, no problem.
Thank you.
Would you like me to go through the waivers with you?
Yes,
Please.
Okay. So waiver number 1, and this is a letter dated June 4, 2018, and it's in response specifically to Bill Dingman's letter of May 25, 2018. So waiver number 1 is that there be, there's a section which I will put into the record. It's section 154-18.B 3A3. There shall be a 26-foot vertical curve for each change in percent slope along the proposed street. The applicant is requesting a waiver of this requirement in order to reduce it to a 15-foot vertical curve due to the nature of the existing site grades coupled with the low traffic volume of the proposed cul-de-sac. So if there are any questions about that, we can answer them one by one, or we can just go through all of them.
I would just defer to our traffic consultant and our engineer if they think that's an acceptable
Okay?
waiver.
All right, why don't I just go through all of them then,
Okay.
and we'll come back and revisit them if that's okay. Number 2, section 154-18C4. The proposed road as a residential street is required to have a minimum cartway of 32 feet. The applicant requests a waiver to allow the proposed cul-de-sac to have a cartway width of 24 feet, which is in conformance with the surrounding area. Number 3, Section 154-18C5, the existing spares lane, being a village road, may be required to be widened at the township's discretion. The applicant requests a waiver to allow the existing road to remain at the current width, as any potential widening along the property frontage would impact environmentally sensitive areas along the existing 40-foot wide right-of-way. Number 4, Section 154-21A, sidewalks shall be provided along both sides of all streets, excepting where, in the opinion of the governing body, they are unnecessary for the public safety and convenience. The applicant requests a waiver as it is believed that the sidewalk along the proposed cul-de-sac is not necessary for public safety. Number 5, concrete curbs shall be installed along each side of all new and widened streets, roads. The applicant requests a waiver to allow the existing road to remain at the current width as noted above. Number 6, 154-18B4D, the grade within 50 feet of the outer perimeter of the cul-de-sac shall not exceed 3%. The applicant requests a waiver to allow steeper slopes so that the grading can tie into the existing grade within the property extents. Number 7, driveways shall be provided with a stopping area measured 20 feet behind the right-of-way line that is not to exceed a grade of 4%. The driveways for lots 1 through 4 have been revised to be compliant. The applicant requests a partial waiver of this requirement for driveway number 5 to allow a higher slope so that the driveway and house can be graded closer to the existing grade and not to allow for excessive cuts. Number 8, 154-21A3, ADA ramps shall be constructed at all roadway intersections. The applicant requests a waiver of this requirement since no sidewalks or pedestrian paths or crossing are proposed. So that's the extent of the waivers. As you can see, most of them result from the existing features on the land and with respect to the land's proximity to Spares Lane, which is truly a country road. So if you have any questions about that, we'll be happy to respond to them.
I know, Mike, we didn't talk about any payment of a fee in lieu of for grant of the waivers. So we might still need to have that conversation. But I did want to also add, I think you have Planning Commission recommendation in favor on all these. Although the Planning Commission said widening of roads is what should, any payment of a fee in lieu of should be applied to widening of roads. In which case, I don't know that that would be fully waived if that's what the payments would apply to.
What I would like to suggest is that the supervisors consider an approval with the understanding that the fee in lieu will be negotiated and agreed to between council and the engineers, and that all of the money that is included in that fee in lieu will be placed into the township's coffers, either as specific for road improvements or into their general coffers as the township directs.
So this is only for preliminary. Ordinarily, when you're doing preliminary and then you do final later, you can't add new things at final. Final is just confirming that they did all the stuff you said in preliminary that they have to do. If the applicant agrees to put something back in the final, you can do that. You can't impose it on them, but if they agree to it and say we'll negotiate the fee in lieu with it prior to final approval, then that's okay.
Sure, we would do that. We want to try to get this process moving along in a fair way for you and us.
So the fee in lieu of would be used to help pave the existing Spares Lane, that's right? Widening, right? So I don't want to put anything in our coffers because it'll never happen for the people, because that's how government works, you know? I would really like to see something dedicated to fix that road. I mean, you're going to go in there and put a new road in, and they're going to get new neighbors. We're giving all kinds of waivers, and the residents there right now are getting nothing out of this.
Well, I think they with all due respect, I think they are getting something out of this. It's an improvement to that road and intersection as to what's there now. And the monies that would be, the monies that would be set aside for when the township were going to do something with respect to that road.
Show me the improvement you're referring to.
Well, I think the improvement is that the project itself is going to raise the value of the homes around it. That's number one.
Hey, hang on, let him talk. We're your advocate here, so you'll speak. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I've been doing this for almost 45 years, and I've never seen an improvement like this, drop the value of the surrounding properties, ever. And with regard to the road itself, the engineer can speak to that as to what is being benefited here. One of the things that I know of is that because of the time volume of stormwater that's coming off of there now, it will be improved because of the way that this project has been designed, and your engineer has reviewed that.
So that stormwater will not impact anybody,
No,
is what you're saying?
that's right. It is, from what I've been told by the engineer and from what your requirements are in the township, it'll be improved as far as time volume is concerned.
Right,
Okay,
I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I want you to show me where the improvement to that road is.
I can, right now, that's a dead-end street, spares. So any delivery vehicle, fire apparatus, anybody that comes down Spares Lane after that job is constructed will be able to turn right. There is nowhere to turn right.
Okay, that's your only improvement.
Big improvement.
Well,
I get, the waivers that we have granted in the past and what our solicitor referred to as the fee in lieu of is the cost of what the improvements would be, which is the sidewalk, the curb, the widening. I assume that you're going to put street trees in, that sort of thing. Because you're not putting curb and sidewalk in, that means, I believe, you're probably not going to put storm drains in and curb inlets. It'll be a...
Now, there is curb and storm on the proposed road.
Oh, there is curb.
Yes.
You're just, there's a curb.
See, I'm sorry, I didn't make this clear. Your ordinance can be interpreted to require this developer to put curb, sidewalk, widening all along Spare Lane. We're not asking for those waivers with respect to the road that's going in,
Okay.
only with respect to the road that's there.
Okay. So even if we take the fee in lieu of those waivers, we would have this, I believe, and Bill probably can, we don't know that we can do the improvements anyway because there's not enough width there to do those.
That's right.
Isn't that-
That's exactly right.
So, in Mr. Vagnosi's statement, we could put the money in an account, but if you can't do the work, it sits in an account. And not that I'm advocating waiving it completely or putting it in a general fund and moving it, but, at some point in time, maybe something could be done down there, because there was a developer in quite a few years ago in the same situation where the access road back to that property is just restricted with buildings and mailboxes and everything else.
Yep.
So what you're saying, Phil, is that there's really nothing you can do to the actual Spares Lane. It has to stay the same because of the width of it.
I won't say there's nothing that can be
Ask our
done.
engineer that question.
Well, why don't we just play it out and ask him, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do to Spears Lane for us?
We're not gonna
You're not gonna
touch
do
Spears
anything
Lane.
for it?
No.
Okay.
Bill,
So-
what can be done to Spears Lane? Do you think that if we had community cooperation, it became a township project, what do you think could be done, minimally or at most? Won't hold you to it.
The existing right-of-way, I think Crossroads has identified, there's some areas it's only 25 feet, I think, and other areas that are 40 feet for, Jeremy, for the existing deeds as you look them up. Is that correct? So we're probably limited to, let's say, 25 feet of right-of-way that's there today without acquiring additional right-of-way. So in that 25 feet, you certainly couldn't put a road and a sidewalk. Some of the roadway down there is as narrow as 13 to 14 feet. So, let's assume that's in the right-of-way, so you could widen it to say 20 feet generally. Now, there's an area where you couldn't get the 20 feet either. I think that's near the barn that's there, garage, or whatever the right term is, so you wouldn't be able to do that. I didn't look at those specific deeds to see if the right-of-way was limited at the Route 29 intersection to the 25 feet or the 40 feet, but the interior deeds are the 25 feet, not the, so there is some right-of-way available at 40 feet at the intersection of Spares and 29? Is that what you're saying to me? Okay, there's no reference for the deed at the corner as to what the right-of-way is, so there's a ton of open questions, I guess, in terms of property line surveys and right-of-way.
Question, Bill, what's the condition of, your opinion, because you're the engineer, our engineer, what's the condition of Spares Lane, the existing roadway?
I could use a mill and overlay, but it's not a project that Tom would move as a number one on your list by any means. It was
How
paved
about-
16 years, so it's ready.
So, again, look, we're gonna, they're looking to put a development in, the residents down there have a road that, basically, they're gonna put a development in and no improvements to their road. So if we have a fee in lieu of, and then we put money in our coffers, which we need to make sure goes to fix the road. Maybe it's not an answer for everybody here, is if we can get them a paved road. Does that help? I don't know. No, okay, I'm just trying to, all right, so there's obviously some concern about from the residents about the development, and at this point, we're talking about the fee in lieu of, but fee in lieu, so what are we gonna get out of it? What are we gonna give the neighborhood? Because if we're gonna get some money, I wanna keep it there, right there with the residents there.
The planning commission had recommended that money going towards road widening or the intersection, specifically,
The intersection,
the 29 intersection.
I'd like to have, maybe this isn't inappropriate, but I'd like to know how much money we're talking about. I'd like to maybe go back to the residents and see where they would like us best to spend this money that we're gonna get to fix the road there.
We haven't had a conversation with the applicant yet. Normally what happens is you make a determination of what the total cost is to them and the extent to which you could demand compliance. Sometimes waivers have to be granted based on the nature of the project. Sometimes they don't have to be. That's what the back and forth is. So we would start with an estimate of what the total is and then come up with some factor from that, some percentage that is reasonable that still makes it worth for them. If you go too high, they'll say, well, we'll just put the things in. So, you want to find that number that's agreeable to both sides. But we haven't even initiated that conversation yet, so we couldn't really talk about an actual number right now tonight.
Yeah, and I want to add to that,
How do I make a decision based on that?
I did a draft of an approval resolution that was for you to guide questions for tonight, because I didn't think it was going to be an action item for a vote tonight, because I hadn't had that conversation yet.
So we can table it.
I might also add that one of the very key points that Mr. President makes is that when there's impossibility of performance, which there certainly is in a number of these things, that the developer can't be held responsible. We don't want to walk away from things. I mean, if there was a nice 40-foot wide right-of-way and so forth and so on, that would be one thing. That just doesn't exist here. I mean, some of these properties. I drove down there this weekend in anticipation of coming here, and some of the properties, literally, from me to Jeremy, is what the road is.
I get that. I've been there many times.
Okay.
So-
I understand,
yeah.
and that's why it creates angst in me that I have to do something here that's going to upset those people that have been there for generations.
Understood.
And, I want to do what's best for them. And it always bothers me sometimes that we are charged with the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of this township, and why can't we do it for the welfare of those residents down there? It's like, that kind of bothers me. Everybody comes to us about the health and safety, but the welfare of the residents are important too. So, I'm inclined to ask the rest of the board here that maybe we table this, we find out what kind of money we're talking about, have another conversation with the residents and tell them what we're physically dealing with, what we actually know we're going to get, and go to them and say, this is what we have to deal with.
I
What do you
don't,
want to do with it?
it's obvious to me you're not going to vote on this tonight, but I would like to go through everything else so that that's the last issue. Because otherwise, we're going to be going round and round and wasting your time.
That's fine with me.
Okay, let's do it that way. All right, so we need to know what the dollar amount is for the waivers, and may I suggest that Jeremy and Bill exchange what are normally called takeoffs, or as you know, this ain't your first rodeo, and they'll figure out what it is that is a reasonable amount of money. And then the attorney and I, Joe and I can work that out. Now, with respect to the other matters, in Bill Dingman's letter, let me see if I can grab that again. Number one, zoning, a fee in lieu of dedication of open space is fine. Number two is a question of steep slopes. That has been worked out since the steep slopes on this property have already been approved for development. There is nothing else on Mr. Dingman's letter other than the waivers that we need to discuss. There is a letter from McMahon, and that letter is dated, McMahon, I'm sorry, is the transportation engineer for the township. That letter is dated March 9, 2018, and the items that are listed in 1 through 5 are all covered with respect to the waivers that we've just discussed.
Will the truck turning radiuses work on Spears Lane coming in without the widened improvements?
I'm going to keep my day job and let our engineer address that.
Okay.
Thank you again. My name is Jeremy Hoagland from the Crossroads Group. We did work with the traffic engineer and the township engineer to put together a turning template plan for not only the proposed development in the cul-de-sac, but for the length of Spears Lane. And we did that as an exhibit plan that was circulated, I believe, the township staff in March or April.
Mike, but if you had
I believe we addressed all the concerns. I don't want to put words in the staff's mouth, but I believe we addressed the concerns. I believe we addressed the concerns that they had brought up. As part of that exhibit, we also had integrated conceptual, where could we widen Spears Lane? What could we possibly do? That was before the revelation that some property deeds called out a 25-foot right-of-way, where others call out 40. So,
you said some of the, I think Mr. Bill Digman said the roadway is 14 feet, and how are we going to get a fire truck down there?
there is one spot where the existing barn encroaches. And the best answer that we had come up with, meaning myself, the applicant, your staff, was to show conceptual widening wherever we could without removing the barn.
So you said you checked the deeds. Have you surveyed? I mean, I'm looking at a plan. It appears to be surveyed.
The subject
The
tract,
location of the buildings, are they within the right-of-way, or is?
so the location of the buildings was field surveyed by my office.
Right.
We did not do a boundary survey for every parcel up and down Spears Lane. We did locate some monumentation, but I don't want to misrepresent. We did not do a boundary survey for every single property up and down Spears Lane. Between the monumentation that we found, some of the existing utilities that we found, we believe we know approximately where the right-of-way is. Again, this work was done before the revelation that some of the deeds have a 25-foot right-of-way call, which changes things.
Can you speak up? We're having a hard time hearing you. You gotta speak up a little bit, okay? So I have a question. According to the fire marshal, fire marshal's letter gives several different lengths here, probably because of different vehicles that we would want to send down there in an emergency. This vehicle that you show here, can you tell me, I can't read it. My glasses aren't that good. What's the
The fire marshal's letter that you're looking at, Jeremy, is dated March 2, 2018, and with respect to the vehicle size, you can just grab the, there is an attachment. The fire marshal referred to overall length at 565, I'm sorry, this is on page 2.
I got it.
Okay.
Got it here.
565 inches, that's A. B, the curb-to-curb turning radius is 40 feet 2 inches. And for the overall length, the wheelbase is 258 inches. And for the curb-to-curb, the wall-to-wall turning radius is 47 feet 7 inches. So how did you address that?
So we took that information and we integrated it into an auto turn program, okay? And we supplied that with supplemental information. One of those is the turning template you have in front of you.
One of these.
That is one of the pieces of information we sent to the transportation engineer to prove that we have successful turning throughout the proposed development, as well as the corner of Spares Lane, where it makes the 90-degree turn.
So our vehicle can get in there and back out.
Yes, that's what the turning templates show.
Okay.
It'll take 2 years, but.
You're not driving the truck. Okay. All right, I'm still going to make that recommendation unless somebody wants to take an action on this.
Jeremy, on the back of the plan that I have, it shows a fire truck turn detail B. Is that the one you're referring to that goes around Spares Lane? It's hard to, I mean, look, either one that you look at, it's difficult to see that if that's the turning radius is the black lines, it looks like they go beyond where the existing paving is there, or does it go right to the paving? Is that what you're saying? Okay. You can describe it there for the people in the audience, and I can follow here. I mean, I see the turning radius on this road, but.
Yes, so the turning radius in that location does stay within the paving. We made sure that we stay within the existing paving. In that corner, the paving is actually, that one corner is widened out. If you've been to the site, you can see right at, let me turn this around for you.
But it appears to go across the corner of the property of the existing building and a parcel, lot 26, the corner lot. It appears that the turning, the auto turn, if you see what I'm talking, do you see where I'm?
I do. I do see where you see that, yes. So that is, we are still within the paving in that location.
Okay.
Okay, where the deed plots, which is just a deed plot, again, it's not a boundary survey for that corner.
Right.
There was no exception for right-of-way for the radii of that turn.
Okay.
But we are within the paving, and we're also, there are two, if you've been out to the site, PP&L set double poles everywhere, they just said new poles. So that was really our factor that we had to consider, that we're not going to clip the pole. We're just inside of that pole nearest to Spares Lane.
I kind of agree with you, John, that to not take any action tonight, but I think that what we would have to look at is see if the community's willing to be and get involved if they want the improvements going back there.
Yeah.
And, because it's obviously going to take some manipulating properties. It would take, I believe it would take some community cooperation to try and widen and improve that road going back there. And I don't know, it's up to the solicitor whether, you know, you can legally hold them responsible for acquiring right-of-way and doing improvements off-site. Is it technically off-site in this situation, or is it?
Immediately contiguous, you can require improvements on, and then beyond that, you can't require anything that's off-site. So that's why, I think that's why the planning commission said, let's take this fee in lieu of money and apply it to this, to Spares Lane in general.
Yeah, you got about 128 feet, basically, that unless, as a result of impossibility of purpose, you can't do it, is all that we're talking about here. Where's the money going to be best spent? That's what you have to decide.
Exactly.
And I understand that. And we're not here to try to get out of anything. This is what it is.
I
So,
think for purposes of the resolution, Mike and I would have to have agreement on the amount.
Yes.
It wouldn't be held up, once it's in your coffer to decide how to do Spares Lane, and that wouldn't really hold up
Right.
the resolution.
I'm in agreement there. And if you're willing to work out what that dollar figure is.
we're willing to work out what the dollar figure is, and we're willing to make it a condition upon final approval. And if we can't come to an agreement, then we don't have approval, and we understand that. So we're willing to do that. Just asking you to move forward if we can.
You have a question back there, John?
I would like to hear some comments from the residents, though. That would be good. Hold. Can we,
Do you want to get residents' comments?
we want to get some comments. Because I don't want to wait till the next meeting and not have any comments, because I haven't heard everything
Well,
either.
do you want to do it here, or do you want to do it some other place?
I think we should put it on the record a little bit here, right here. Maybe, as long as we're not duplicating too much, but if we can hear some of the concerns.
I want to ask a question.
Can you come up?
about,
Can you come up? And give your name?
I'm Donald Lebedinsky. They were talking about the turnaround. Which area are they talking about? The development or where Spares Lane meets 29? Because,
In the development.
okay, because they were talking about the fire, having trouble with the fire trucks. I do drive a fire truck for the fire company, and we can get in there. I don't know what it's like down at the lower end, but fire trucks can get in Spares Lane.
John Malik, 187 Spares Lane. I understand everything that you guys have been talking about. The question I have is, the narrowest part of the lane is going to be the approach of the development. The 14-foot that they were talking about, I have a vellum copy squeezed. I gave it to Jeff to look at. I don't know if everybody's aware of it. Signed by Mixner, who used to be your township engineer, 1979. 20-foot right-of-way, iron pins both sides, okay? Where the 40 feet is, I don't know. He explained to me that's a PennDOT thing. But that section of lane, from where you make the turn, which is technically called Ravine Street or Raven Street, that's the narrowest part of the lane. Now, my question is this. His development is about 200 feet, roughly, from the corner where you make the 90-degree bend. If I'm coming up the street, or any other neighbors coming up the street there, who's going to back up? Because two cars can't pass each other. So whose responsibility, legally, safely, however way you want to word it, is going to be to back up to allow the other vehicle to pass? Because physically you can't pass two cars, much less a dump truck, a trash truck, building materials truck, any number of things in the 2 years it's going to take to do this development.
It's my understanding, and when I went down and looked at the area, there are about 18 homes there. Now, they figure it out. People are genuinely, they have to be, courteous to each other. You get in and out, just like they do now whenever they have a delivery with a truck or a vehicle or anything else. And that's the way, we're not going to block off the road. My gosh, it would be, first of all, the neighbors, it wouldn't be fair to the neighbors. They'd be up in arms with us. And secondly, it would be such a problem for us to block off a road from a liability perspective that we'd be nuts to do that. So we're not going to do that.
George Malik, Spares Lane. I'm not seeing any improvements either, just like you gentlemen aren't. At the end of Spares Lane, you cannot pass two vehicles side by side. That's already a bad situation, especially during rush hour. There was an accident there today, in fact, okay, where somebody got rear-ended, airbags went off the whole nine, okay? So that's really an issue. As far as getting a fire truck down the road, I'm sure you can do that if nobody else is coming, okay? So if you have 10 more cars, with already 36, okay, now you have more issues, all right? You got to be able to pass two cars, not just one car. The narrowest part of Spares Lane is about 13 feet 8 inches, okay? And it's pretty much right across from where they were going to put their driveway. That's a 20-foot wide right-of-way there, per the vellum copy that my brother has. So, you know, we have multiple issues. You guys are aware of some of the things we brought to the table before. I'm not going to beat the horse, but there are safety concerns there, as well as stormwater management concerns that we have, that they said they're not going to gain more. This last rain, we got a lot of water out of that field. That's all pervious right now, okay? When you put the driveways and the roads in, now it's going to be impervious, and the rooftops, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration here. First and foremost is safety, all right? There's little kids on that road that walk up to the end to get a school bus, okay? Parents park there. You can't pass two cars there. They're parking on somebody's property right now to drop their kids off to school and pick them up. All right? So as far as improvements are concerned, I personally would like to see the end of Sparrows Lane improved that way, okay? And then somebody's gonna have to show me where you can pass a fire truck and another vehicle side by side, okay, in case of emergency. My mother is incapacitated. We live at the end of that road. She's in a wheelchair. If there needs to be an ambulance there, God forbid, okay, and the road's blocked or you can't get through or somebody doesn't want to cooperate, we have a real big issue, okay? I don't want to see my mom die because somebody wants to develop some property here and it's all about money.
Hi, my name is Lindeman. I live at 193 Spears Lane. We were talking about vehicles and cars and trucks passing each other. In the 20-foot section, it's now 13 feet, where the road is proposed for the new road, how is the first truck that's coming down there with a bulldozer not going to block the road to unload? How many trucks and cars for the builders and the construction workers? Where is their parking going to be provided? I have heard none of this addressed. How many cars and trucks? You know, we might have 2 deliveries a week. To build 5 houses, we're going to have how many a day? Trucks and cars and bulldozers, and how are they going to get in and how are they going to turn around and get back out without blocking the road? I also live at the very end of the lane. I have asthma. I can't wait for an ambulance if I have an asthma attack.
Good question. How are you going to handle the traffic during construction?
I think that is a good question, a very good question. And I think, as in most developments like this, what will happen is that the vehicles initially are pulled off into the field areas. Then they'll install what's normally called ballast and an area for everyone to be able to park not on the roadway. And that's how it's normally done, and that's how it'll be done here. It'll be done in an orderly fashion. There'll be a pre-construction meeting with our engineer and our site contractor, along with your engineer, Mr. Dingman, and whoever else from the township is required to be there. And they will show exactly where the vehicles are going to be parked, where the dirt's going to be stored, and how they'll get in and out.
Okay, so just so in case somebody I call the chief and send him down and have an officer sent down to remove somebody's vehicles. It's like
Just like it would be in any other job, Mr. Pearson. You know,
Okay.
a lot of jobs that we've constructed here.
Yes.
Be just like that. Yes.
Thank
I have a question. Or observation. I've heard some of the residents talk, and but for some construction issues, some questions about logistics, we've heard. And we've heard about having the cars passing each other courteously on the road, which you do now. I have not heard, maybe somebody hasn't stood up yet, but what other issues are there? There has to be more than that.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lebedinsky. I live at 108 Spears Lane. My biggest concern is when I leave Spears Lane, I turn left. And I cannot see. I don't care how much you take out the embankment there or anything. It's not going to help. It's not the hill. It's not the property that's there. It's the vehicles. I mean, even if it's a sedan sitting in traffic, I can't see anything coming up. I've almost been T-boned several times, and I have to turn left. I can't turn right to go to Egypt Road just to go around to Paulings Road. I have to turn left, to go up to Hallman's Hill. And people don't say, oh, come on, you're clear, there's nothing coming. I've had that once in the last 5 years that I have lived at my grandma's house. traffic has increased a lot, especially with the light at Egypt Road, 422. Anytime there's an accident, you're screwed. You can't do anything. Traffic's all the way up to the top of Holman's Hill. Sometimes it's all the way up to Rivercrest. We can't get out. And like I said, it's not developing property. It's that intersection. And putting another light on 29 is not going to help either. So like that kind of stuff that PennDOT says we have a right, like we can see, but we can't. The residents during traffic, during the high time of traffic, I don't know when they're coming out and surveying it, if we're already at work, but it's in the morning. I leave at 8 and it's ridiculous. I sit there for 10 minutes trying to turn. And even coming home, if I have to get my kids from my parents down the street and trying to turn on the spares lane, I got to sit there for 5 minutes because people don't want to let us in, let us out. So those are also issues that we're having.
All right, so let me add further now. So this development, the developers come in and they have a right to build what they want to build on this property. Okay, so they're asking for some exceptions. You may not be happy with that, and we are a 5-member board that's here to advocate on your behalf for certain things, curbing and whatnot. That's what we're talking about. We can't in and of itself stop this from happening because there's every right, the developer has every right to do this because that's our zoning. So we can't stop it. We can try to mitigate some problems. Nobody's dying because an ambulance or a fire truck's not getting down there. That's not happening. Trust me, fire trucks get where they want to go, and so do ambulances. So again, I'm looking for. We're trying to work on some road improvements. They're being amenable to make a contribution. We have discussed about tabling this to come up with a number, and any way we can help to improve the road we can. Now I understand we're limited to the width of the road, but we can only do so much. I see a barn. I'm looking at a barn I'm looking at the Google Earth. I've been down there, but I'm looking at the barn. There's not much we can do about the barn. There's not much we can do about the 20-foot width. If we can get some money and the township can maybe move up some improvements to your road, that's what I think we can do. We can do that. I asked already, would it help if we paved the road? If we did some improvements, I don't know. But that's what we can make that decision. But understand, we're trying to help. But we're besides, fire trucks and ambulances, and you having a hard time getting on Egypt Road, I'm not hearing much. I'm not discounting what you're saying, but I'm just saying we want to help you, but I expected more.
I think what we discussed before was horseshoe and spares lane, and that would reduce everything. So if the fire truck does have to come in, if they have to come in where I guess the 5th property is against 29, they would have an easier access to get to spares lane to the end of the road instead of worrying about that curve at the end, like it's the lower part of spares lane. And I think if we did, unfortunately, take one of their properties and did like a horseshoe, so we have 2 entrances, an entrance and an exit, I really think that would alleviate a lot, because if they start on that end, come out there, that alleviates where their cars are going to park, where their trucks are going to park, where the supplies and stuff that have to come there, and then that's their access, and it doesn't affect us at all.
PennDOT won't allow that. PennDOT won't allow it. That's the problem.
Wait a second. Sir, wait a second. So Ken, if you would explain to this lady why PennDOT has not approved that suggestion is a one-way in and one-way out.
Sure. We went out and we did a speed study and we did a sight distance study, and based on the grades and based on the speeds of vehicles traveling on that road, there is not a location along the site frontage where there is adequate sight distance to create another driveway in that location.
Did you inform them about safety issues?
Again, the issue is you need to meet minimum sight distance criteria, and we don't meet minimum sight distance criteria.
Can PennDOT do something about a safety issue? Can't they make an exception?
Not for sight distance, because if you create a driveway that does not have minimum sight distance, you're creating an additional safety issue.
But if you're coming into the development, so if you're going to turn into Spears Lane, say we're residents of Spears Lane, so you're either going to make a left into Spears Lane, or you're coming down the hill and you make a right into Spears Lane. How is that a sight problem?
Well,
Because it's no different than pulling into Spears Lane and pulling out of Spears Lane. You're coming down it, and it's open. It is open in that area.
Okay, again, we went out, we did the sight distance measurements, and we looked at vehicles turning in, and we also had an issue with vehicles turning left into a driveway at that location. from vehicles coming from Edith Road and coming up the hill. There was not enough sight distance for vehicles coming up the hill to see a vehicle that would potentially be waiting in that, waiting to turn left into a driveway there. Well, we did do,
You have to understand that that road was put in many, many years ago, and the criteria that PennDOT had years ago was different than what it is today. It was different last year than what it is today. It's like, you know, and Ken is explaining to you exactly PennDOT's, you know, requirements, and we can't do something that PennDOT won't allow us to do. It just doesn't happen, unfortunately. You know,
Again, I think it goes-
we'll take one, I'll take one more question, and then, Gail, you have my cell phone number. If anybody has any questions or comments about this thing, they want to add to whatever's happening, you can have them call me personally, not a problem. And ma'am, we'll have one more question, and that's it.
Lynn Newman, 193 Spares Lane. I did have one more question. We had talked about where they'll put the storm drain in where the fire hydrant is currently, and they had talked about to put that in, they would have to dig up the whole road, and they were going to put a road using the 40-foot right-of-way that does not exist now to go around that. How is that going to be solved when they put the storm drain in and things that has to go in the road at the bottom of their site and not block traffic?
So the storm sewer that we're installing is in the proposed road, is in the proposed cul-de-sac. We are not encroaching beyond the half width of the existing spares lane. Our storm sewer is entirely contained within our proposed site.
So it's within your, it's on your property.
So the sanitary sewer, I was talking about storm sewer.
Okay.
The sanitary sewer, which is, I believe what you were talking about, the sanitary sewer? Yes, the sanitary sewer is in Spares Lane right now, within the right-of-way. We will be tying into the public sewer of that manhole in Spares Lane. Just like any other development, that's our point of connection.
And to answer my question, how are you going to do it without blocking us in?
Ma'am.
The road's 13 feet wide.
Ma'am,
Even if you take
this
the
is,
road, I can't get my car past.
there'll be a space for you to get your car past.
I'd like it further out.
That's-
It seems to me
You know,
physically
That's what they do, ma'am. Look, they're here to build. They build all the time. No, but we don't let anybody block a road. They have steel plates to put over. You will get out. Okay, that's our job to make sure. That's why we have staff to make sure. So you'll be able to get out. Okay, nobody's getting blocked in. Nobody's going to not be able to get the Wegmans. Okay, so people, they're not going to block the road, and you're going to get your ambulance if you need it. Okay.
So Mike, we're going to probably table this and try to figure out what's your client wants to come up with, and
Is it possible to have a vote at least for the approval of this, subject to the final approval, which would allow for that number?
I'm not doing anything this evening.
Okay.
Mike, I would say based on your reputation that, you know, you do what you say you're going to do, you have done that in the past, and that as long as you come up with an appropriate fee in lieu of for the waivers, I think that we're okay with everything else, and it's incumbent upon us to work with the residents to figure out what's the best way to spend that money to get their most bang for their buck down there.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you for your patience and your time, and I'm sure we can make something work here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda. What? Okay. Next on agenda, consider adoption, Resolution 2018-36 to approve preliminary development plan for SEI's North Campus.
Good evening, Ed Mullen, and I have with me Mike Gladnick and Frank Montgomery, as well as representatives from SEI. And I guess, Mike, why don't you pass out the waiver letter? And while he's doing that, I'll just refresh your memory. This plan received tentative sketch plan approval in August of 2017. We then filed the preliminary plan, and we got review letters from the consultants back in December. And those review letters required the approval of certain special exceptions and variances, and it took us a while to get through the zoning hearing board, and now we've gotten the special exceptions and variances. And the review letters that we're talking about are set forth, I believe, in the resolution that Mr. Breslin has prepared, and they include a letter as recent as May 17, 2018, from Ken O'Brien, who listed the items that we talked about and we were agreeable to do concerning traffic. I know there's a number of residents here with their attorney who want to talk about the traffic that we're going to generate, but I'd ask if we can just have Mike give you a real quick overview of what it is that we're doing.
Good evening. I'm Michael Gladnick from Advanced Geoservices. So when we brought the tentative sketch plan before you, what we showed was a master plan for the full development of this property. Through successive submissions to the township, the staff has asked us to make this land development submission for the first phase, which is approximately just short of 120,000 square foot, 3-story building that's in the south east corner of the site. It's that L shape on the bottom right there. There's a access drive that comes off of the existing Freedom Valley Drive, which goes through the south campus of SEI, continues up the hill and around and in front of Building 12, which is the first building, and continues around and out to Cider Mill Road on the north end of the site. There will be two, for the first phase, there will be 2 on-grade parking lots serving 630 parking spaces. There are multiple basins on the site, 2 larger ones, one to the north of the parking closest to the building, and one to the south of the other parking lot. It's in the south west portion of the site. In addition, we are proposing a connection of the sidewalk from Cider Mill Road through the north end of the property, an 8-foot wide bituminous trail that will connect with the Montgomery County Trail to the railroad, the former railroad right-of-way that's on the east part of the site. What did I miss? There are 4 landlocked parcels. SEI now owns one of them. We will be providing access through our driveway through the site to each of those sites so that they don't lose the access that they have now.
Mike, did you comment on the 8-foot wide bituminous trail where it goes from to?
Yeah, I'll say it again. It connects to the sidewalk that's in front of the Hunt Club development to our north, and comes down Cider Mill Road a little bit, and then crosses the north portion of SEI's site and eventually connects to the trail.
It'll go down Upper Indian Head Road to the county trail?
No, it does not go down Upper Indian Head Road.
Well, that's the trail access now, though, right?
But the trail, where the trail goes from Upper Indian Head Road up to the former railroad right-of-way, where that point of connection, our trail will connect at that point.
So
It comes right down to the
county
trail. It comes right down to the county trail.
On Cider Mill.
No, it comes right down to the county trail.
Oh, you're going the other direction, though.
If, say you were going down and made a left onto the trail, you go out, I don't know how far out is that you're gonna connect to it? Couple hundred yards?
Yeah.
They'll connect to it right from their property.
So the Hunt Club people would be able to access the trail.
If you are walking on the sidewalk in front of Hunt Club and we'll connect to that sidewalk, go down along Cider Mill Road till it reaches SEI's property, and then it will turn left and go across the north end of SEI's property. And there's a grade there, and it makes its way down and meets the county trail on the railroad right of way. Is it on? So there's where the existing sidewalk is, goes down Cider Mill, makes the turn, and follows. I'm having a hard time seeing that.
Okay, I see where you're going now with it, okay.
And goes
It
around.
connects directly to the
county
trail.
trail is,
The county has a parking area on Indian Head.
Right, there's a trailhead on Indian Head, yeah. But it's not, it's above that.
But they're not gonna make any connection down Indian Head as part of this.
They're not connecting it to on their side of the road.
My concern is right now, the parking for the trailhead is on Indian Head Road, Upper Indian Head Road, right behind your temporary parking lot, right by your temporary parking lot. And with the additional traffic coming down Upper Indian Head Road, should there be some accommodation being made for pedestrians or bicyclists to get to the trail there, rather than go up Cider Mill and have to come in, if they're coming from Indian Head Road, Black Rock Road, in that, Leatherwood development, that direction.
Mr. Barker, part of our issue with putting the sidewalks on Upper Indian Head Road is that there's a water course very close to the road, and the widening would encroach on wetlands and the water course.
I think you don't see where the trail is coming in.
I know where the trail is now, and it crosses underneath where the temporary parking lot comes straight up. That's what I was. Okay, so the trail, you know where the trailhead is? Can you point to the people?
Yes.
I know where it is for the people in the audience.
So
It's behind the temporary garage, the temporary parking where you're building a structure.
Way down here.
It's
Yes.
down to the, yeah.
So-
It's down there.
So former Lower Indian Head Road goes kind of there over to Egypt Road. Where the
Right.
It comes to here, and, oops, I'm wrong. It's here, right? Here's where Lower Indian Head Road used to be. This is the trail. The trail comes to the end and turns up Upper Indian Head Road and goes alongside the railroad track all the way to that point where it meets up with the railroad bed again. And we're connecting right through there. So we're not connecting on Upper Indian Head Road, we're connecting sort of halfway up the property.
That parcel.
Land development parcel.
Correct.
Shall we have Frank talk about the traffic and then everybody can ask questions?
That's fine, yep.
Right?
Good evening, everybody. Frank Montgomery, Traffic Planning Design. I apologize about my attire. I'm in between day and night shift right now, and I'll be heading back after the meeting. So I'll be back in 2 weeks, not in this uniform. I'll be in more appropriate attire.
That's okay, yeah, we like the uniform, or at least
Thank
I
you.
do. It's all good. Thank you.
But unfortunately, after that, and I was just telling my client, I will be taking a full-time federal position with the Commonwealth, wearing the uniform. So I'll keep in touch on all my projects. I think I have 4 active projects, so I'll be in touch. Maybe I'll be doing domestic operations, so maybe I'll get to talk to Brian once in a while for snowstorms or such. So, but my apologies. So we'll get started. As Mr. Gladnick mentioned, there are going to be some pretty significant improvements. And I think, Mr. Barker, you were talking maybe getting access down to the trailhead and parking and all that. I think one of the things is there's not really a sidewalk system that would connect down there, or connect to Upper Indian Head from points as you head down to Egypt Road or over to Black Rock Road. So really, we're hopeful that this sidewalk connection is adequate to address some of the walking for the neighbors that live up to the north on Cider Mill. And we are doing some pretty extensive traffic improvements at Cider Mill and Upper Indian Head to hope facilitate some of that traffic in and out. So we're going to be doing 3 major improvements with what we'll call, we're here before, for phase 1. And then we've identified some more improvements if and when SEI continues to expand its campus. And we'll come back in. They'll come back in before you all, and we'll talk those improvements more. We sort of outlined them, but we're going to put more meat on the bone as the project rolls forward. First, Black Rock Road, Upper Indian Head Road. There's currently a temporary signal there. It was supposed to be upgraded as part of SEI's campus that exists today. They're not only going to upgrade the signal, but we're also going to be doing some significant widening at this location, and that will help accommodate the future traffic. And any improvement that I'm going to discuss this evening, everything is sized out. So if we're going to create a turn lane, it's all being sized for all phases so that we're not coming back 5, 6 years down the road and ripping the curb out and moving something further away. So if we are touching an intersection right now, it's being sized out for the full improvement. Up here, and I'm going to steal Jeff's laser pointer. Thank you. Get a watch. Trigger control. Bottom one. All right. So Black Rock Road, Upper Indian Head Road. What we're going to be doing is on Black Rock Road, we're going to be putting a right turn lane. Currently, it's pretty marshy right there. There's open and closed stormwater facilities that run up and down that area. And we'll be putting in a right turn lane on Black Rock as you head away from Egypt Road. Egypt Road being down here, and as you come up, and again, that will facilitate right turns in folks who are coming up to SEI in the morning. In the afternoon, probably wouldn't experience much traffic. However, anyone that uses that in the evenings would have the benefit of that. We're going to put a very lengthy left turn lane on Upper Indian Head Road and mirror it on the other side. It's actually very wide. We don't have to do any widening over here. It's just a restriping. And that will accommodate traffic to get out of the either through traffic or right turn traffic. It'll get the left turns out of the way. And what we identified during our traffic counts is that a lot of SEI people do like to use this route to get down and get on 422 East rather than turn out on the Cider Mill down to Egypt and then cut over. So it's providing an alternative approach so that not everybody goes to one location. The length of this lane, as currently proposed, we'll be working with McMahon. Some of our numbers showed that this lane should be a little longer. We want to take a look at that as we get more survey in and make a determination of what's an appropriate length. It's not that we don't want to construct it, it's just we might be impacting neighbors, or it just might not, or it might go across an intersection. So we just want to make sure we're doing the right thing, and we're currently proposing this, and again, we'll work with the township engineer. If it has to be longer and it works, we'll do that. All new stormwater curbing facilities along here. And then we saw an opportunity to lengthen this turn lane. We didn't show a huge need for it, but we know there's other development in the township, and we identified that there's, without widening this stretch of road, we're able to lengthen it, I believe, about another 100 foot. So that gets those cars out of Black Rock Road thoroughfare if they're making a left, and then people can go by safely in the through lane. And the traffic signal will be fully upgraded. All the ADA that exists out there, I believe there's 3 crossings, will all be upgraded as well. And that is what is going on at Black Rock and Upper Indian Head. At Cider Mill in Upper Indian Head, campus proposed up here. Driveway will be up in about this area here. And this is the existing south campus 422 main line. On this, very extensive improvements, and it is a very difficult intersection due to grades here, pretty much on every corner. This is above ground, this drops off, and this drops off. guide rail either side of the road, and 422 right away. We're going to put a left turn lane on every approach of varying lengths, all sized out for the final condition. It'll be signalized, and we'll be putting a right turn lane on this approach and a right turn lane on this approach for the existing traffic that goes down Upper Indian Head today. A recommendation from the township engineer due to potential queuing was to make this a right in, right out only driveway, so that if you do want to turn left out, you have other options down here away from cars that'll be stopping for the light. Again, there'll be utility relocation, stormwater, guide rail replacement. So this is going to be a very extensive improvement, but we don't see nothing has jumped out at us as a reason why we couldn't do it. We're going to have to be very careful with the limited access right away here that exists for 422, but again, we think we can make it work. And then as we travel up Cider Mill, so Hunt Club Drive, Minuteman Drive, and I'm sure they'll be speaking tonight because they are directly adjacent to the property, and there will be traffic that goes in front of their site. Proposed driveway is down about this location, and one of the things that we look to do is that Cider Mill is kind of in varying widths here. As you get closer to the intersections, we used to call them runaround lanes. Basically, just put extra pavement in so people could kind of bail out at the last second if somebody turns left. What we're proposing is to have a continuous left turn lane that will tie into the site driveway's turn lane. So this will be a consistent 3-lane cross-section. It does a couple things. One, from a safety perspective, it gets folks to have their own left turn lane to be able to access the residential developments, and they're not having to worry about somebody running up behind them. Secondly, it improves capacity at these intersections. We are adding traffic. About anywhere from a quarter to a third of the site traffic is likely anticipated to go north or west. The rest of it will either go out Cider Mill, or I'm sorry, Upper Indian Head over to Black Rock Road, or will go down to Egypt Road and make its way from there based on data that we obtained from the applicant on their existing campus, who we anticipate will utilize similar type zip codes for approaching the site. Again, it's not insignificant, but we think with this improvement that it's manageable. I know some of the neighbors' concerns are that they just don't have an ability to get left out. And during rush hour, it probably is difficult. Our report indicates that they're within acceptable levels once this lane is built. However, if I'm a neighbor, it's tough to get out today. It's going to be tougher when we add traffic. The new traffic light should provide gaps in the traffic. However, as neighbors have indicated, during the PM, this driveway, if people are exiting, there would only be a stop sign stopping them. It would make it, it's not going to be an optimal situation, but we think that with the level of service we presented in the report and with this improvement, we think that it meets the township criteria, which are based on PennDOT criteria. We'll try to continue to work with the applicant, will try to continue to work with the neighbors to see what else can be done. I took a look at traffic signal warrants. There's just not enough volume that exits out of these developments that PennDOT would allow it. So outside of that, we're just kind of stuck on what else we can do to help just break up the traffic. And again, probably the busiest time that they'll see to get out is the PM, which although folks do exit residential developments in the PM, it's not rush hour morning either, where the majority of people are heading out for the day. I know school buses were brought up as a concern in terms of crossing distance if we do widen it. And I sort of mentioned that in these areas specifically, right where the bus likely stops, the pavement is physically that wide today. We're more or less just going to restripe in those areas, and then we'll be widening in this area, and down as we go to the driveway. Obviously, when the school bus stops, they stop traffic as well. So it shouldn't create any safety hazard by doing this minimal widening and restriping. We're also going to be doing some signal upgrades down at Egypt and Cider Mill Road, just to help where we can. And then, as identified in McMahon's letter, as we go into later phases, SEI is committed to work with the township, the county, other developers, possibly like DVRPC, whomever we can to do sort of what I will call a regional improvement, something that's going to be bigger than SEI. And maybe it's redoing the interchange at Egypt Road and 422 so that there's not that dogleg turning maneuver to get up Cider Mill Road, which would benefit not only SEI but also the neighbors who have to do the same movement in the afternoons when they come home or even in the mornings if they come up that way. So those are the types of things we're looking at there. I want to say that that was about it. I think in terms of the later phase was just to do a considerable size improvement. We met with PennDOT because although this is not, Cider Mill is not a PennDOT road, some of the improvements we are doing will require their approval, which includes the traffic signal and anything we're doing on Black Rock, which is a state road. And then potentially if we touch the limited access right away for 422. So we're just going to kind of wholesale submit to them as if this development were on a state road. They're going to have eyes on it. Just your very capable traffic engineer will. That's sort of where we're at. We think that the traffic report that we prepared shows that we're mitigating our impact in phases, and we're hopeful that that is sufficient for the township. And I'm here for questions.
I just have one comment. If we could, for the next phase, you had mentioned the Egypt Road interchange. I would, so we're looking to move this to a later phase, the improvement to that intersection, right?
That's correct.
So I'd rather start working on engineering the next phase sooner than later. I mean, try to work with PennDOT or
So we want to get the dialogue going now because
Get the
this is a
dialogue
several-year effort because anytime you, obviously, as you may know, anytime you involve federal dollars or state dollars, the process gets longer and longer. And I know some projects in Lower Providence right now. We did the Route 29 improvements, our firm, with federal money and Audubon land. And so we're familiar with the process, and we do want to get the dialogue going. Yeah. The other one in Lower Providence, McMahon's actually working on right now, and they got a local grant from Senator Raffy's help.
Okay, that's good. You bring jobs, so that's important. We'll get a little priority there with PennDOT. So.
I'd just like to comment that Planning Commission has recommended approval of the waivers. We'll comply with all of the letters from all your consultants. We have offered to meet with, it has not been set up yet, with the neighbors, attorney for the neighbors and the neighbors at SEI to review traffic concerns going forward. What happened was by the time we got to the point of saying, okay, let's meet, Frank took off for reserve duty, so we weren't able to have a meaningful meeting. So we will commit to do that, and we will do that. So we'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Do you want to hear your have residents?
Good evening. My name is Michelle Stranin. I represent the Hunt Club at Valley Forge Association. As you've heard, the association is directly next to the SEI North campus. My comments tonight will be no surprise to the applicant, and I want to make it clear that the association is not trying to stand in the way of development, but they do have two specific concerns. They are asking that this board not only hear those concerns, but address those concerns. For the residents, this has already been a long process, and I know that they have a very long road ahead of them because this is scheduled to take place over the next several years. Once the association became aware of the proposed plans for the North Campus, they did get my firm involved. At that point, the matter was already before the zoning hearing board. We tried to raise our concerns at that point, but we were advised that it wasn't the proper forum, that zoning was not the place to raise the concerns. We then appeared before the Planning Commission. We raised the concerns there, and again tonight we are raising the concerns before you, and we hope that you will address those concerns. So there's two issues that the association has. Number one, they have concerns with potential lighting pollution. We understand that the applicant has had lighting studies done and that the township has certain lighting requirements that SEI will have to meet. But the association is concerned Because of the elevation, they are located kind of up on a hill and will look down onto the SEI North campus. Specifically, they are very concerned with the parking garage structure that is planned to be built during Phase 1. These residents are concerned that they will not be able to have their windows open during the evening hours without lights shining into their windows, that they will have to have blinds closed at all hours. Specifically, the association is asking that this board consider imposing a condition. And that condition is that if this board approves the Phase 1 plan, that this board will reserve the right to readdress the lighting conditions once the Phase 1 is completed. Although these studies have been done, the association really has no way to predict what the lighting is going to be like. They're concerned that no amount of vegetation and landscaping can be put in to prevent that light pollution coming into their development. So they would like assurance that this matter can be readdressed at a future time, and if there are problems with the lighting conditions, that they can then be addressed. What the association has to go off currently is the South Campus. And from the association, they live in that area, they see the lighting in the South Campus, they have big concerns about how the lighting is going to impact their sleep, their everyday living. They want assurances that if at some future point the lighting pollution, as determined by the township's engineers, is a problem, that additional things can be put in place, changing the wattage, putting timers on, something of that nature. It's really too soon for anyone to know until more development is done. But they want that door left open if there are problems once those lights go on. The second issue is really the bigger issue of concern for the association, and that's obviously traffic. As Mr. Montgomery alluded to, the association is very concerned with the ability to get in and get out of their development. While the improvements in the area in general we hope are going to be great, they're concerned with the traffic light going in at Cider Mill Road and Upper Indian Head Road. They're concerned that when that light is green, they will have traffic coming down Cider Mill Road past their entrance, preventing their access out of the development. When that light turns red at peak hours, they're concerned that people will be exiting the applicant's facility and again going past their development, preventing their exit from the association. Essentially not allowing a gap in time for them to get out of the association. We understand that the applicant has had traffic studies done, but unfortunately the residents have to disagree with what those estimates are. And they disagree because they live it every day. Currently, there is already a traffic problem in that area. It is a heavily congested area. And they believe that once additional employees are put on the North Campus, it's only going to make matters worse. They're asking that this board impose another condition pertaining to traffic. That condition would be, again, since we can't really predict what the impact is going to be, we don't know necessarily where these employees are coming from, what the exact zip codes are, what routes they will be taking. The condition is that once employees are placed on SEI's campus during any phase, that an additional traffic study be required. That way we can ensure that the estimates in the traffic study now are accurate. And if they're not accurate, then adjustments can be made to address the situation that currently PennDOT doesn't feel will be a problem, but these residents do. Like the prior matter, they want to make sure that they can get in and they can get out, and that they can do that during any hours of the day, peak hours or non-peak hours. At the beginning of this meeting, we heard a story about value, and I'll conclude my comments tying into that story. The association, in addition to the obvious concerns about safety with the increased traffic, they're concerned about value, their property value. They want to make sure that the applicant and what they have planned is going to increase value, not decrease their property value. At the very least, they want to make sure that that value remains the same. And they're asking that you look at their concerns, you hear their concerns, and you address their concerns with these two conditions that the association feels is very reasonable. The applicant has been working with the association, but the association is asking for your help tonight to go beyond what SEI has offered to do to meet with the association. We're asking that you put these conditions in place so that the residents are protected and that these doors are left open once things move forward and we can reevaluate both the lighting and the traffic situations as they continue to develop. Thank you very much.
If I may, just to keep things going, SEI is happy to agree with both of those conditions. We will agree that we will comply with all the lighting requirements of the township, and in addition, we will look at the impact on neighbors. In fact, we have already done so. We have blue lights on the premises now, and because if you look down, you can see them. We put caps on them so you can't see them. We've put a timer on our existing parking garage, so lights go off at 10 o'clock, except for emergency lights. We're not trying to make anybody life miserable. We're happy to work with them. And again, we will agree with another traffic study prior to second phase, third phase, whatever phase, so we have no problem agreeing to those conditions.
So, once the lights are up and once all the once all the employees are coming down and the traffic seems to be a little bit much and they decide to come to us and they make a complaint, we go to you guys and you guys will address their issues?
Well, on lighting as it's built, absolutely.
Okay.
And on the traffic as we start the next phase.
Okay.
Yep. We'll do another traffic study, once this
Okay.
one's complete, so we see what it is. Yep, absolutely.
Ma'am, does that satisfy you?
That sounds great.
Thank you.
So, Ed, do they have a plan for the, you showed us, Frank Montgomery showed us a real extensive plan on all the improvements going to the site. Do you have a timing plan as to when those will be implemented? Are they going to be started immediately before people come in, or are we going to?
Mike, or Frank, you want to say anything?
I don't want to wait for a couple years and then.
Temporary.
We're going to be starting.
I didn't say it.
Permanent, temporary?
We'll be starting with Black Rock and Upper Indian Head, just because we have the most information already and we're taking a jump on that. But the turn lane in front of the two residential, that's very easy. The layout you have is probably 50 to 60% of the product, other than drainage and just some final touches. And then the signal at Cider Mill, Upper Indian Head is going to take a little while because we're going to need to get some permitting for that. PennDOT will be involved.
It's going to move forward as the development moves forward.
Correct. We're already underway in design.
Okay, because you're behind on the south campus.
Just a little bit.
The engineers have raised a concern just in the last couple of days, rightly so, of what work would be required in connection with phase one in terms of the roadways. And so the resolution was drafted with a whole separate paragraph on Kent's recommendation on the exact things that have to be done in connection with phase one in terms of roadway improvements.
Joe, this might be a question for you. Was there a curb and sidewalk waiver with the South Campus development? Was there a waiver for sidewalk and curbs when you developed the South Campus?
There was not. The South Campus approval was done in 1995, and the improvements that were done with the initial phase were what was required for the full project. So Cider Mill Road was built by SEI when they did the first phase. And at the time, the shoulders instead of curbs and no sidewalks was what was required.
So the ordinance of curbs and sidewalks, but it wasn't a waiver. It was what was required at the time. Yep.
Yeah, they built it as spec.
You completely reconstructed Cider Mill Road in a different location is what happened. Because
Yeah,
it
but-
used to curve down and.
Yeah,
along-
before SEI took the property, there was no Cider Mill Road between Egypt and Upper Indian Head. The road was Lower Indian Head Road, where the county trail is now. So you could not go down Cider Mill and continue to Egypt Road. You either had to make a left or a right to go to Black Rock or Lower Indian Head Road. But as you all know, Lower Indian Head Road floods quite frequently, and SEI could not survive with a road that flooded and kept them from getting to their business on a regular, on an everyday basis. So they constructed the road from Egypt Road all the way to Upper Indian Head Road. And at the time, what's constructed out there now was what the requirement was.
Mike, is the 10-foot macadam trail in effect replacing the sidewalks?
Yes, we think that that's a better route to get from the residences to the trail than going all the way down Cider Mill and then going down Upper Indian Head Road, where there are other issues of the water course that's immediately adjacent to it. We would impact wetlands and that water course. And I think it'll be a quicker route to go from Cider Mill Road down to the county trail through the north end of the property.
Will there be improvements to Upper Indian Head Road down in that direction now?
There'll be improvements that Frank described at the intersection.
Now, talking going down, because right now it's a narrow road, especially once you get by where the county trail is, where Dog Legs up or by the Audubon Land Development property. And people, you're going to add additional traffic there. That was my concern. That's why I was asking before if there were going to be additional improvements
All
there.
right, so to the east of Freedom Valley Drive, which is the driveway that goes through SEI's property, down to the Perkiomen, we have not proposed any improvements there, and there's no right-of-way on the north side, Nielsen's property, to do any widening there. The right-of-way is only 16 feet wide there.
To get them down the Upper Indian Head past your driveway entrances, because you're going to have driveway entrance on both sides, right above the county trail, right?
And only widening up at the entrance is proposed. We can talk to Ken about if we want to take that all the way down to where the two drives meet.
Are you concerned about the safety of the users of the trail, because that's
Well, that's the
on
only
a
access,
street?
yeah, that's the only access they have now. So if you're coming from, like, the baseball fields, Greenwood Avenue, that direction coming down, to get to the trail, they might have to deal with traffic there, or all the way up the hill and come back down through the 8-foot trail they're building up that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
So I was just looking for some enhancement on the Upper Indian Heads roadside.
Yeah.
But
How do we do that?
he said he's gonna work with Ken.
How do we memorialize all of this and make sure that it's on the record?
This is phase one, and there are other phases coming that we're going to want to get approved. We have to work with you, with your mercy. Pure and simple.
So on the waiver letter, all the comments, the waivers requested for steep slopes, are they the man-made steep slopes from the
Yes.
excavation prior to you owning it?
Right. The property was a borrow site for soil for 422. And if you've ever been up there, it's like a moonscape. There is no soil. We're right down to rock, and the slopes that are left are the slopes that they could make as steep as they could to take away as much soil as they possibly could. And so we've gone to the zoning hearing board. There's two parts of the ordinance. One is in the zoning ordinance, one is in the subdivision land development. We got the variance from the zoning hearing board, and we're asking for the waiver from the steep slopes in the subdivision land development ordinance.
Do you guys still have snow there where you push it off of the... I'm always amazed when I come down Cider Mill and I look at the side of that parking lot and I see this huge pile of snow. Is there still snow there?
I don't know whether there is. A little bit. You can jump off the parking garage and ski down there anytime you want.
I'm telling you, it's amazing the amount of snow that you guys generate off of that parking garage.
So before you sit down, Mike, the landlocked properties you referred to in one of the review letters, you're granting those people access. What about if they need public sewer or public water? Is it available to them there, or can they get back?
We haven't discussed that.
I don't know whether they have it now or not.
They do not. They're,
Okay.
all four of those sites are on lot, sewer and water. We're going to be extending sewer up to serve our properties. I imagine there could be the ability to run a line down. The two that are closest to the railroad tracks may be too low to get. You might have to do a grinder or something there to get those. The one property up the hill, SEI has purchased it, so that one's not an issue anymore. The other one, in theory, could get to the sewer line that we're extending by gravity.
So you would in some way grant them some sort of an access, an easement to get, so that they could tie into sewer if necessary later down the road?
Yeah, well, the driveways will be, an easement will be created on those driveways. In fact, we're paving one of them.
Okay.
So, that easement could serve both purposes.
I think most of the other comments are all, if Ken's okay with them, the distances between driveways, and their internal driveways and parking spaces. I mean, that's all internal. There's no public driveways or roadways are impacted.
Now, note that this one also includes the language to negotiate the fee.
Right.
Ed and I agreed today that we will negotiate that prior to final.
Okay, that was my next question.
Basically, to be honest, we're looking for some credit for the trail against the sidewalk. So that's what we'll be up to. We'll talk it out and whatever it is it is.
And also, we got some late math today on the rec fee. The draft that I gave you, we had the gap between 335 and 360,000. That was for the full.
The entire project.
The actual number for phase one is about 140,000. So, and we will still refine that number as between us using the formula, but I'm just saying the rough guideline number that's in here is for the total, so I'll change that. I need to now add a couple sentences to the resolution. You can vote on it if you're comfortable voting on it, but I will add the two sentences that they've agreed upon, the two conditions that they've agreed upon, and I'll change that number to 140.
Have you applied for the variance already for the increased building coverage?
Yes. We have it.
You have it?
All zoning hearings were released this week.
Okay.
That's what took so long.
Okay. Consolidation plan is done? Or is it, there's a reference into one of the review letters about it's 3 separate lots shown, and it would be a consolidation plan?
It'll be consolidated with the approval of the
Okay.
the subdivision and land development plan, and then we'll record it as one single property.
Okay. And I don't understand what, it says the land to be dedicated to Upper Providence Township, and then parcels of land conveyed from Upper Providence Township to SEI. I don't know what those parcels are.
Okay, so with Upper Indian Head Road down in this area, the existing right-of-way is, as I said before, only 16 feet on the half side. On the southern half, we dedicated the required 25 feet with the south campus. So what we'll be doing is dedicating the 25 feet on the north campus down in that area there. Along Cider Mill Road and a piece of Upper Indian Head Road there, when PennDOT did 422, they created basically a right-of-way for Cider Mill Road that is, it ends up being 120 feet wide on Cider Mill and goes from 80 to 90 feet at the top of Upper Indian Head Road and tapers down back to the 25 feet as it goes down Upper Indian Head Road. What we've proposed is to keep the right-of-way along Cider Mill, but keep it in keeping with your ordinance. We would go 40 feet from the center line, which is, that road requires an 80-foot right-of-way. We go 40 feet from the center line and make that the property line along Upper Cider Mill, and then go 25 feet off the center line of Upper Indian Head Road when it turns the corner, so that there'll be a consistent 25-foot wide right-of-way along Upper Indian Head Road and a 40-foot right-of-way along Cider Mill. So there's land that the township is essentially given SEI, and SEI is giving the township. There's a trade there.
Okay.
That was discussed when we did tentative, you might recall, we had a map that showed that.
Okay, I didn't recall that, okay. I think it's all the questions I have.
That's right across the street from that sinkhole.
In fact, it is.
They're gonna donate the sinkhole to us.
Air there.
That's all I have, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
James Callahan. Brian, if you could go back to the Upper Indian Head Black Rock intersection, please. I have a question. So the yellow line that's Upper Indian Head from Winding Ridge across Little Knoll Circle, what does that represent?
That's just markings on there to show the lane lengths. It's not anything that's going to occur in the side of the road.
Okay.
And there is a very, on the, what I'll call southeast corner, there's a very large PennDOT right-of-way. I'm not sure if it was because of drainage or something, but we're staying within the right-of-way as we go and bend up around the corner there.
Okay, yeah, because my question was about the sidewalks that run along Upper Indian Head from Winding Ridge down to Little Knoll Circle, from Little Knoll to Black Rock and across. There's also a stormwater drainage detention basin for the entire Winding Ridge development that has worked quite well for the last 20 years that hopefully isn't going to be disturbed. That's all.
Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to adopt Resolution 2018-36 to approve a preliminary development plan for SEI's North Campus.
Mr. Solicitor, the motion was made, but we have an addition to that, so.
Yes.
How do we?
The motion, your motion is to adopt the resolution as I drafted it, subject to the amendments discussed tonight with respect to the conditions to satisfy the nearby homeowners.
Okay. So that is the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Did you repeat all that?
No, he just did it for me.
Him.
Oh.
I'm not saying.
Oh, sorry. It's the motion with conditions discussed tonight.
Right, I'm waiting for a second.
I did.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
Oh, yeah, I second.
My bad here over here.
That's okay. Here, want me to move on that side of you?
I'm good. I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2018-36 to approve preliminary land development plan for SEI's North Campus as amended. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, guess we're getting paid tonight, huh? Next thing on the agenda, consider adoption of Resolution 2018-37 to approve tentative subdivision and land development sketch plan for 239 Gray Street.
That'd be me, Brian, do we have anything?
I do.
actually, the other plan, that we're at, is that the plan?
That is the plan, just overlaid with the area.
Oh, okay. Okay, this is the first time you guys are seeing this. What happened was, we had originally proposed, this is a 5-lot subdivision, including one existing house, and that house will remain. Anthony, would you grab that pointer, maybe, and you can point it.
You should charge rent.
All right, show where the existing house is. Now, originally, what had happened was, we had proposed the subdivision to be coming in from Grace Street. And we met with the planning commission, and we had a number of neighbors out from
The Meadows.
Meadowview. Number of neighbors from Meadowview, and we discussed it, and everyone agreed, particularly the neighbor who's on Grace Street, who doesn't think we have the right to use Grace Street, but we don't have to get into that argument, because we agreed to come in off of Norwood Street. So the revised plan that went to the planning commission, and again, this is tentative, we went to the planning commission with the tentative plan, and it would have the 4 new houses taking access off of a cul-de-sac off of Norwood Street. There was concern raised, and I think Ken raised concern about our access onto Norwood Street being a little close to the intersection with the condominium. So they wanted us to move that to the left as far as we reasonably could. They wanted us to widen or to open the radii so that fire trucks could easily turn into the cul-de-sac. They want us to widen the cul-de-sac, and they wanted us, hold on a minute, to get any necessary zoning relief, because there are some man-made steep slopes there, so we're going to have to get a special exception. So basically what happened was the planning commission recommended approval based upon those changes, and their changes we're willing to make. And rather than making us wait, because it's a 4-lot subdivision, and it's already been delayed through the process of changing from Gray Street to Norwood Street, they moved us on to present to you guys. And we're here, we're happy to answer any questions you have.
Are we still looking at a 20-foot access to Norwood?
No, it's now 22-foot.
22-foot wide access driveway. The 20-foot you're referring to might be to one of the lane lots here. As this used to front on a Gray Street right-of-way, under this scenario, we would propose access to this lane lot through a 20-foot wide hole of the flag lot to the cul-de-sac. So that would be just one single driveway to the cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac would be 22-foot wide.
And meets all the requirements for your turning for fire trucks.
This is tentative though, right?
This is what?
Tentative?
Tentative, yep.
Yeah, we're at the first,
Because
remember, the tentative, which precedes preliminary, so first step.
the cul-de-sac probably appears to me that the driveways are too close together. Isn't there a requirement and have a snow, Tom, you would know this, they have a snow removal, a snow piling area in a cul-de-sac?
We can easily do that.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So for this drawing, is the entrance to the cul-de-sac not moved over far enough
This,
to the
this
left?
has not been moved
Has been
over.
over, okay.
Now, we can't move it real far because there's steep slopes right beside it. So we can probably move it in the neighborhood of like 10 feet to slide it over. And we can demonstrate that the topography is just such it won't work otherwise.
It's interesting, the steep slopes are created, I guess, when Norwood was built many years ago. And the slopes on this site are exhibited right here in that long one. So we tried to stay away from that, but I can shift this road 10 feet very easily and meet the minimum criteria for grades by the code for the new road. We also talked to the planning commission about providing sidewalk there's a narrow sidewalk along Norwood, which we've agreed to widen to get to the township's current standard. And then we agreed to sidewalk the new street on the one side that can connect the neighborhoods. We didn't see a need to connect both sides, and so we would ask for a partial waiver for this side of the new street. And obviously, whatever partial waiver we may need or may not need for the fact that there is a existing.
Nothing's going to change on Gray Street. It's still going to be a driveway into the existing
Driveway in
house.
now, there's a driveway out at Fred Common. There's no change to Gray Street right away or the driveway.
So the house that exists there will use that driveway?
We'll continue to exit on Gray Street, but that's the only house that'll exit on Gray Street.
The other floor will come off of
Oh,
Norwood?
Norwood, exactly.
Ken, have you seen this?
Yes.
What do you think about this? Site?
Again, our concern is that the access should be shifted as much as it can be away from the intersection with the Meadows.
Is there enough there?
Is there enough?
Distance away from the intersection or the turn there?
I mean, the good thing is it's a very low volume road. You got 4 homes. We're talking about 4 trips during the peak hour, so we're not talking about a lot. But again, right now, the way where it is, your vehicles turning into the Meadows basically would stop really in front of the access. So even if you can shift it, preferably 20 feet, 25 feet would be preferable, but 10 feet is better than nothing.
We'll do the best we can and show the engineering.
Ed, is this an easement that goes between Lot 4, in front of Lot 4, across the driveway and behind 3 and 2? I can't read the print.
It would be fee simple to Lot 4, under the ownership of Lot 4.
It looks like an easement or something that goes across in front of Lot 4 here and behind 3.
Yes, there's currently existing gravity sewer for the township that stems from the west side of the property, right through between the backs of these lots and the front of this lot. And we would make certain that easement is called out on all the lots.
Just so you know for sure where you are, that little rectangle at the bottom, that's the regional basin that Gambone's built.
Does this bottom left lot have access to Gray's Lane? I can't tell from here.
To Grace, no.
Grace,
O-
yeah.
Only the existing dwelling would go out to Grace.
This is an existing driveway.
Okay.
There used to be an old farmhouse right here.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So we would remove that driveway, and a new driveway is in a brown color here. So the existing driveway that serves the house would be left until right about here, where we would remove the portion extending to
Gotcha.
the new lot.
Did you say you talked to the people at the Meadows about this?
They were at the planning commission meeting, both planning commission meetings.
And they had no problem with
Oh,
this?
they're here, I would guess, so they could tell you if they have any problems. I think by the time we got finished, we didn't have any problems. They had concerns, and I think we've addressed those concerns.
Okay.
Just to throw a wrench into the works, just because, why not? I don't know. Is there a reason you couldn't do that cul-de-sac off of Gray Street? I mean, there was a mention of a neighbor that said, no, you can't use Gray Street at all. I'm just curious.
Well, first of all, we had the neighbor issue. He's a member of your Act 209 Commission. And he's convinced that that's a private road and that you don't have any public rights in it. But that's not really the reason we moved it. What was the actual engineering reason we moved it to the other road?
Sure.
Cul-de-sac.
The existing right-of-way through at 40-foot width has a traverse slope across it. and trying to widen that street within such a narrow right-of-way would require walls, because we just wouldn't have enough
Okay.
room to grade into the street.
Yeah, I have been there, so yeah, there's a lot of steep slopes, so I was just, thank you.
Okay.
Ken's-
Ma'am.
Ken's concerns are in paragraph 11 of the resolution, so they're accounted for already in the draft.
Come right up.
Yes, there is somebody from the Meadows, and actually, as a point of fact, I think the people on Gray Street and Whitaker were more concerned about it than the Meadows. Our biggest concern is that we have the sidewalk up and the placement of that driveway. If you look at your notes, Norwood is not that wide, and you come down on a hill. And I think having that driveway there, if it's too close, people come over the hill, and they're going to hit, sooner or later, you're going to have two cars colliding. So it's just really, I think that's very important, that that driveway be as far up as you can. You know, I don't know, beyond that, for the most part, it's not going to affect us as long as you have trees around and everything else. I think some of the people on Whitaker Street are still concerned, but hey, they're not here, so I can't speak for them.
Well said.
Thank you.
Property owner to the left, as soon as you come out of where Grace sits with it. He was here at the meeting.
Might have been in the audience.
Oh. Okay. Sorry. I think he is. I'll find his name.
You guys have any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion.
James Stewart? He's not on your
James
I
Stewart.
apologize. James
Isn't he an
Stewart
actor?
is not on your committee.
He's an actor.
He's not what?
He's not on your 209 committee. I was here at a meeting of the 209 committee. I happened to come early, and he was in here. I thought he was part of the committee, but apparently not.
No.
So, don't believe me.
Mr. Stewart's family's been there like 5 generations.
He will tell you that.
Yes.
I'll move to adopt Resolution 2018-37 to approve tentative subdivision and land development sketch plan for 239 Gray Street.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2018-37 to approve a tentative subdivision and land development sketch plan for 239 Gray Street. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Consider awarding a bid for new digital sign at the Black Rock Municipal Campus.
You'll recall, 2 meetings ago, you authorized advertisement of bids for a sign at the municipal campus. This is money in the capital budget for this year to do it. The bids, we're done with a base bid and an alternate bid. The base bids range, as you can see up on the screen, from $110,000 to $204,000 for an LED sign out front of the municipal campus. The alternate bids work to our advantage. I discussed with Rick Stamper the fact that the base bid was brand specific on the LED panel. I thought we may realize some savings if we opened it up to an equivalent product. So he reviewed the equivalent products that were the equivalent LED panels that were specified in the bids. The $96,000 bid from Foreman Sign Company, Inc. Includes a 5-year warranty on the LED panel, and the $96,257 bid includes a 7-year warranty on the LED panel. So it's Rick Stamper's recommendation and ours as staff that the board award the LED digital sign board bid to Upper Darby Sign Company in the amount of $96,257.
Any comments?
Sounds
Any
good.
questions?
Really?
I'll make a motion to, can I make a motion?
Yes, please.
Very good. I'll make a motion to award bid to Upper Darby Sign Company, amount of $96,257 for a new digital sign at the Black Rock Municipal Campus.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second to award a bid to Upper Darby Sign Company in the amount of $96,257 for a digital sign at the Black Rock Municipal Campus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Consider disposition of Klein Road reconstruction bids. Bill?
Yes, we received 8 bids, and the lowest bidder actually had to withdraw his bid because of a material error that he made in his bid. So we're recommending to the first complete bidder, lowest bidder, which is Roadcon Inc., for a total of $398,888 for that road work. I think there was remaining in the budget was around 375, I think, Brian? Or
Sounds right, 370?
367, 375, something along that range, after the prior bids for the whole 2018 road program, taking away what we already awarded.
Right.
There was remaining 360, 370-ish. 370. This is slightly over that remaining budget number, certainly within contingencies.
We have to come up with $19,000.
Pardon me?
We have to come up with $19,000 somewhere else.
I guess.
The 19? 29? We'll find.
Okay. We're recommending.
Somebody's
award.
going to make a suggestion. One department head's going to give it back from something else they got going.
None that are here tonight, though.
No.
They didn't stick around?
That's right. Somebody's losing a baby.
Exactly.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
No. I'll make a motion to award the bid for the reconstruction of Klein Road to Roadcon in the amount of $398,888.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second to award a bid to Roadcon Inc. in the amount of $398,888 for a digital sign at the... Oh,
Don't read that.
wrong one.
Yeah.
Just for reconstructing Klein Road.
Just to save.
Okay.
Stop. Award a bid for Roadcon.
I thought that's what I did.
Yeah, but for
Last couple words.
reconstruction of Klein
Oh,
Road.
okay. For the reconstruction of Klein Road, in the amount of $398,888. I got that right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Consider adoption of Resolution 2018-38 to approve a capital budget amendment to fund emergency repairs to Cider Mill Road, our sinkhole.
Mr. Chairman, obviously, this wasn't budgeted, but I think everybody, in our discussions with SEI, we all know about the sinkhole that was down, and it's still, I think the road is still closed for another couple of days. And there you see it. And what we're finding, and this is something we can talk about more in our capital, when we get into capital budget deliberations later in the year, we're finding that we're having a lot of problems with our corrugated metal pipe. And I think Tom's going to discuss that a little bit, but.
We do have quite a bit of this
Yeah.
corrugated pipe throughout the township. It was put in mostly the 70s and the 80s, and it's failing. The pipe that we're pulling out of that ditch right now is paper thin. It's crazy that it was even supporting the road. I can't believe it made it as long as it did. So as part of my MS4, when we're out doing inspections of our outfalls and stuff, we're actually going to be putting every corrugated pipe that we find on the GIS system so we can at least track it, see what it's doing, maybe do a conditional grade, a condition grade or whatever we can, and then maybe start looking at fixing some of these as a project every year. It's not only us, it's going to be all the other townships as well. They're going to be having a big problem with this because it's all getting at that age. But it's
We
no
had this
good.
at Summit too, right?
Yeah, this is the same thing that we have in Summit that I've been concerned about. So,
So do we have a list of those that are?
yes.
Okay.
I'm going to put a list together. As we inspect things, then we will definitely, put it on our GIS system, and we can see where they're all at that point. So,
The pipe on Port Road, was that metal, was that steel or?
that was a steel pipe. That's a good old pipe there. That'll be around for another 100 years.
Okay.
That's like a ductile pipe.
So,
So,
Mr. Chairman, the reason we have fund balance, unallocated fund balance in our budget is because of stuff like this. So, and we did check with the solicitor. This is a type of project where we can waive the normal bid protocols, and I think we have the best price we can get. We did add a little bit in there for contingency. I don't think we'll need it, but we always add it in there for buffer. So the resolution's for an appropriation in the amount of $115,000, but I think the repair bill right now is about $107,000.
yeah,
So we have
92 plus
so we have
11.
I put about a 5% contingency
Yeah.
in there.
Who's doing the work?
MJ Contractors.
Okay.
Just to add real quick, we did get 40 foot of pipe in today. It was the first day we put pipe in. I know that doesn't sound like much, but dealing with that gas main hanging in the air with all that big machinery and 9,000 pound pipes was not an easy day. We're now past that, and we're at the center of the road on the yellow line. So I think tomorrow's going to be a much more productive day.
The two plastic pipes that I see in there?
That's a U drain. We're going to reconnect that as we bring the grade back up. That's just a U drain. This has been very wet in here for a long time. There's a lot of springs in this area.
The pipe that's being replaced, you can't even see in the picture.
Yeah, you can't see
Yeah.
it. I
Yeah.
was wondering what it was.
And it's
Yeah.
actually about 12 feet deep.
Yeah,
So
it's-
not a-
it's-
That's one of the reasons the cost is so high, because
Yeah.
it's a 12-foot excavation, and we're replacing it with concrete pipe.
Even a little more than that. It's closer to 14. So, yeah. I mean, the hole is enormous now. You think that hole's big, you should see it now. It's enormous. It's the only thing we can do.
How far do you have to run down there to tie it into?
It's 105 feet of pipe. So once we crossed and we got under the guardrail, we still got about another 30 to go. The pipes come in 8-foot lengths. So we were very lucky to get the pipe. Usually you have to special order and have that pipe made, but we pulled some strings with some of our vendors, and they were able to get pipe for us, so we could get it fixed right away. Otherwise, I don't know what we would do. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Excuse me.
Entertain a motion?
I'll move to adopt Resolution 2018-38 to approve a capital budget amendment to fund emergency repairs to Cider Mill Road.
Second that?
I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2018-38 to approve capital budget amendment to fund emergency repairs to Cider Mill Road. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Manager and department heads, manager highlights.
A report, I entertain any questions if you have any. I'll point out a couple of things. I did speak to the Cider Mill Road. Any of you who are around on June 14th at 11:30, we're going to have one of our we're going to be paid a visit by our PML representative and talk a little bit about what PML does for us and any questions. And they'll be at the PD on June 14th at 11:30. If anyone would like to sit in, just let me know. And at our next board meeting, Rich and I will be here. We're planning to have our auditors here to give an update on the final report on the 2017 audit, and also give a snapshot of what we are looking at for 2018 actuals. We're getting close to mid-year, and a status on the line of credit with Newtown Bank. And there's some other information. If you have any questions on the report, let me know.
Yeah, actually, I did see that. I didn't read that till this afternoon. Number 6, discuss the Taylor Farm homestead, and one of the board members is looking for us to do some additional due diligence. I'd just like to put a timeline on it. That the building, the barn's leaning over and about ready to fall down. I don't want to prolong it. I'd like to see a timeline of how long this would take us for us to come up with some opinions on it. I just don't want it to be infinitum.
I understand.
Yeah.
Talking about the Taylor Farm barn?
Taylor Farm, yeah.
Bill's engineering firm hired a structural engineer, and they looked at it several years ago and told us not to, we shouldn't use it or plan to use it, but it was I believe, if I recall right, it was okay to, it's not going to fall down on anybody that was,
But not use it though.
well, we can't store things in it, although
Right.
Tom's had
Right.
from time to time.
I pulled all my stuff out.
Did you finally get out? Got afraid, didn't you?
There's a, taking the police car out now, it's coming out. Cops with an old police car in it.
Is it insured?
I've had several people, a few people look at it and go do some tours and stuff, and that I personally would like to see some restoration if we can, and if that requires creating an historical society, which the township does not have, in order to raise the funds, for instance, to take care of the restoration of these things. I just had somebody look at it on Friday, and it was interesting to notice that the roof that was repaired, whenever it was repaired, was custom fit for the slant. The plywood and the shingles were put on the roof as a slant rather than, and the guy said to me, if they had pulled the building back into verticality, pulled it back into alignment before they put the roof on, it would have been better, but instead they just slapped the roof on it and solidified that slant. It's really interesting to look how the shingles have been, cut in such a way that fit.
But my question here is, who was it who gave an opinion? Who did you meet with?
The guy's name was Eli Zimmerman of King Construction.
Yeah, but we're board members acting on behalf of the community. It's how we go out and get a friend or somebody we know. We have to act as a board to approve somebody to go out and opine and provide information and provide an opinion. We have engineers that we've already gone out and done some analysis. You can do anything you want, except that you're not acting in official capacity of the township to go out there with somebody and give an opinion. And that's not our position up here. Our position is to decide as a group, as a board, what our objective is, and we have to agree to do certain things like that.
Right. And I'm scratching the surface of the, tip of the iceberg to gather information. And I'm
Yeah, but-
asking everyone that I know to, what do you think about this? I'm asking about historical societies. I'm talking to people who have done barn restorations, those who are
Yeah,
contractors.
but we have to act in official capacity. We have to, as a board, agree to do that. We were elected as a 5-member board, not as a one-person board, and I'm not insinuating you're doing that, but we can't do things on our own. We have to do things as a board and all agree that this is what we'll look into, and this is the cost we're gonna expend, and this is the time limit, and if we need to come up to an agreement, all of us, what we're gonna do. We can't just, if all of us went out and got people that we know, and gave an opinion on what we should do, you would ultimately have to bring them back in front of us to come up with a decision.
I think we've already done that with.
And we've already done some of that.
Yeah, I think, Bill, I don't know if you still have that access to it. It's been a few years, but you did provide a structural engineer to look at it. I believe it was your firm, right? Yeah.
Lori, I think the people you've used we haven't incurred any cost, right? You haven't incurred
No, I know
any
we did.
costs. This is just.
I've not incurred any costs whatsoever. I've just borrowed the keys to look at it, to walk through the building, to just brainstorm ideas.
Just so you're aware, Mr. Vagnosi, I did promise Mrs. Taylor before she died that we wouldn't knock her house down. But
Okay. We just have to act as a board.
when we purchased the property,
We have to act as a board.
I did promise her that.
I don't think Lori stepped out of turn here. I think she's just asking friends, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? She's pursuing a lot of different possibilities, and maybe she's gonna maybe at that, when she does her due diligence on this, I think she'll come back to the board and present it to the board and say, hey, look, I've looked into this. I'm making a suggestion, and you're right. We as a 5-member board will make a decision on whatever she comes up with. But she has every right to go out there and ask questions and have people make recommendations or whatever else. She's, you know, we haven't put it out to bid officially, so it won't go out like that. So whatever she gets is not official, and, you know.
Saying she can't go out and ask.
And we won't accept those prices that she gets. It's like, you know,
It could be really good. All right.
I think it's Lori's passions. It's her passion.
I
She's
mean,
going to look
it's-
into it, and we can then
It is
decide
something that
together.
I'm very interested in because I think it's a lovely property. And it's very beautiful to look at and wonderful to stand there, and you can't hear the traffic, but you can hear the birds. And part of what it makes the ambience for me is the buildings are there. But, you know, I'm just scouting around for ideas and thoughts and picking other people's brains at this point.
and I don't see any harm in that. I just, you know, I think you should continue to pursue what you want to do, and if you come up with a good solution, you should present it to the rest of this board, and then we can take some action on it. Police reports, chief?
Yes, thank you. There was concerns of sight distances raised at the intersection of South Lewis Road and Rittenhouse Road by Supervisor Higgins. We also received some calls from bus drivers and some other individuals about the sight distance. We worked with the elderly property owners there, and we were able to get this shrubs and trees and stuff cut back. Should be a lot better. I don't know if you've been out there recently, but
No, not since it's been cut.
it's a lot. The sight distance has been opened up. During the month of May, it was Click It or Ticket Month, and our Montgomery County signboard was placed up on northbound Route 22 at Route 422. The primary message was to get motorists to buckle up at all times. Several details were conducted throughout our township addressing this goal. Grant money was provided to the Township Police Department through collected data from reportable accidents from the state. Port Providence Road has an issue concerning tractor trailers. Some residents of Port Providence section of the township expressed concern with trucks using Port Providence Road as a road of choice when it is designated and signed no trucks. Recently and in the past, tractor trailers have used Port Providence Road and then end up taking down utility poles and wires in the 700 block, as you're familiar with, Mr. Pearson. We learned that the trucks are coming from Graphic Packaging. We went out, we spoke to the manager there, explained the concerns. He's working with us to install signs on their property so that there's no trucks turning right going down that part of the roadway. So they're cooperating with us, and we hope to have that problem corrected and hopefully no more lines pulled down. We spoke about the road closure, which I guess Tom might go into more, I don't know, on Cider Mill. And we've been expanding our training services that we make available for schools, businesses, and daycare facilities. Lieutenant Freeman, our Emergency Operations Manager, Rich Rissell, Sergeant Solario, and some others have been working with these facilities to improve our emergency response in the event of a major incident as seen with recent active shooter incidents. Training is available to businesses in the township how to respond to active aggressive events and advanced bleed control. We've been providing this training to anybody who inquires about it to help deal with, what to do if. And Montgomery County Emergency Dispatch Center has approached us again to assist with their dispatcher ride-along program. Starting this week, we'll have dispatcher ride-alongs with our officers to help them better understand the duties associated with patrol officers in their cars, so that they can go back and they have a real basis for explaining, what call taking is about and how it actually applies in the field. We conducted some details. On the 12th of May, we were invited to Valley Forge Baptist Temple for their annual Touch a Truck event at the church. We had some patrol vehicles and motorcycles on display there for the kids to see. And on the 12th, we also provided assistance with the Ringer Run Caps benefit, which was a 5K and a 10K run that started on the Perkiomen Trail in the lower Perkiomen Valley Park and crossed over Cider Mill and Arcola Road. We provided assistance at those two locations for the runners. And that's all I have at this point in time.
Thank you, Chief. Public Works report, Tom.
Just one more thing to add to cider mill. I'm hoping to have it open by Friday, but
No.
it could be earlier than Friday, but I don't like to give an exact time, but I think by Friday. Just to also let you know, our skate park equipment was delivered. We got that at the Public Works facility, and we'll be installing that in September. And just to let you know that we are paving Woodland and Acoma tomorrow. So that'll be paved tomorrow, followed by Cheyenne and White Crow, which will be done together. And then we got Lisa Marie and Hollow Road. So I think by the end of next week, we should be done with our paving project for this year, minus Klein Road.
And how about my mailbox?
I understand that was a problem today. We'll get that taken care of, I promise. So,
Of all the mailboxes,
I
they had to
know.
back into
So I was like,
mine.
really, of all the mailboxes, that one, right? That's all I have, but do you have anything for me?
No, I'd like to thank you for the job you did on Port Providence Road last weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
It was amazing, the water that we got down there, and Tom and I and Mike Coyne walked the property above it to
Yep.
see where all the water was coming from, and it was a heck of a job. Thank
Yeah, I'm
you
still
for,
getting mud off my shoes.
Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Supervisors' comments. Anything, guys?
I have just
Solicitor report? Or?
Yeah, I do
Oh, I'm
need to-
sorry, I didn't mean to jump over you, Joe.
Well, do you guys, the other consultants, have any?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Real quick,
I'm telling you, you have no idea. You have no idea what it's like to sit here with this.
real
It's like-
quick, John, we did meet with a developer up at Gambone's Regional Basin there, Hugonair, and they did additional improvements up there to hopefully
Good.
prevent that additional water from coming down there in the future. So that was done. I did not get a chance. I know at the last meeting, I think Phil or somebody mentioned the pond up at Donna Drive. I did not get a chance to pull those old plans yet. I know that job's been around for 20 years. So another 2 days or so won't matter. ENS plans were submitted for the Schuylkill River Trail East. The joint permit has not been submitted yet. And that concludes the report, unless you have any other questions.
Thanks, Bill. Nothing from Ken, nothing from Jeff. Let me see, I'll look at this
Now
thing
you can
in.
ask me.
Mr. Solicitor.
I need your authority to settle one of the tax assessment appeals. You know, those are all handled by the school district. And then, but they need your authority to authorize me to sign the settlement stipulation. This one is a building on Longford Road. It's if you turn from Longford or if you turn from Egypt onto Longford, heading towards the canal, it's the first big commercial building, not out at the corner, but the first big commercial building on the left. There's two there.
Yep.
So the one closer to Egypt, it's that building, which was assessed at 7.2, and they got a reduction to 6.8
Okay,
through the litigation process in court.
gotcha.
So I just need your authority for me to sign the settlement stip to process that.
You need us to make a motion on that?
Yes. Yep. Motion to authorize tax assessment appeal.
I move to authorize the solicitor to execute the tax assessment appeal.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second to authorize the solicitor to execute the tax assessment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks, that's all I have.
Solicitors, solicitors comments, supervisors comments. Anything, gentlemen, ladies?
Can you give us an update where we are with the administrative building, with costs, change orders, site improvements? Because I thought we were keeping a running tab on that so we know where we are.
We are keeping a running tab.
We are, but you're not
Change-
sharing.
Change orders are only up to 4.1% of the job total. That includes site work.
Thank you,
Where
Brian.
we saw the most change orders. Again, like I indicated before, on any given job, change orders typically run between 6 and 10, 6 and 11% of the project cost. So we're still in relatively good shape as far as change orders go.
So just so you know, the architect that built this building made the statement that he kept his change orders less than 2%.
That's why we went with them. So what's the time frame for the building? What are we looking at for
Well, July
finish?
9th was the scheduled completion date.
2
Now,
weeks.
Backed into that number are 10 weather days that the contractor can claim they couldn't work because of weather. They're gonna claim all of them. So that puts us 2 weeks beyond July 9th. And I think realistically, we're 2 to 4 weeks beyond the original scheduled date. So I don't think it's likely to be completed. You won't be cutting a ribbon until sometime in early August.
September. Can you just share that spreadsheet with us? How about site work? Are we?
It's all on here.
Okay.
Site work and all the prime trades are on
Okay,
here.
great. Thank you.
I'll email it tomorrow.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Well, what I was going to say is I'm leaving tonight for State College to go to a PML Sustainability Conference. I'll find out what,
Yes, thank you for
what it's
going.
all about. I've hired my free in-house driver to drive me there because it's a 3-hour drive. So I hope it'll be informative.
You entertaining a motion?
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second for adjournment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries.
Tim, I thought that was supposed to be a light meeting.